4, 3, 2, 1.
Greetings, fight fans and combat sport disciples. It's Episode 2 of the Fight Temple. Cue my music. Hey, cowboy, how are you doing this week?
Good, good, very good. And we're still, can't go anywhere. So it's been a perfect time to practice your meditation and a lot of Hindu squats and try to do some body weight workout.
Right? It's
Right.
going to be a long, long quarantine, and we've got a lot of time to discuss fighting, to rethink our own strategies in our lives, and to look back on the great fights that we've been privy to in the last 15 years. So, Chowbo, what are we talking about today? I mean, I saw some promising things about the Khabib versus Tony fight coming up. Did you see anything about that?
Well, I've been following that for quite a bit, and because I heard something like that might not be in the U.S., but I was thinking, could that be Ali versus Foreman? Could that be in like that type of model, or maybe in the Caribbean, or maybe in Brazil? But now it doesn't seem it will happen because Russia got a long quarantine as well. It basically the traffic got locked down as well. So Habib, I think he's in Russia and he cannot go anywhere. And apparently for Tony Ferguson, maybe he cannot fly in. So who knows?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that that's the biggest pity that I've ever seen. Like, if it took a plague to stop these guys from fighting, I don't know if they'll ever fight, and therefore we're always going to be talking about who was better, even though they were both in their prime at the same time.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean this fight could be the fight of the century. Maybe we can get the same nerve, or maybe more nerve than watching Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So, Rob, we were talking about like how popular MMA are all around the world and how popular MMA in North America, and because we see a lot of kids they go and do MMA. And I read this news long time ago. I think it was 7 8 years ago. And just please tell me if I'm wrong. In the article it says it's around like over 3 million kids, 3 million. They not even like teenagers, not even like in middle school, just kids, maybe under 12 or over 6 in America alone does MMA. Like yeah, I don't know if that was accurate number, but that was a massive number. So that quite make us think how popular that is in China, because we both in China like spent a long time in China. For me, like forever. I was born there, I grew up there, and Rob was there for a long time as well. So what do you
18
think?
years, man.
Yeah.
18 years in the Middle Kingdom. Should
So
be a book or
yeah.
something.
So Rob, what do you think? Because you were more down to ground than me, because you were actually operating a gym, you were coaching, and you were also a fighter. You train and also you travel in China. So what do you think? Is that really how popular MMA really is in China?
Well, in the beginning, people used to ask me, "Is that like WWE? WWE? Is you Hulk Hogan? Same, same." I'm like, no, it's not like WWE. I asked them if they ever heard of Pride. They said no. They ever hear Art of War? Some of them said yes. Occasionally, I got recognized on the street. That was a moment of extreme pride for me. Somebody's like, "Oh, is that the guy? Is that the guy?" And I'm like, "You've never seen me before, right?" So, uh, but yeah, it's not popular. So I mean, Art of War used to be on Inner Mongolian TV on like a Sunday afternoon. I saw myself get my own ass kicked, and I saw myself win on another Saturday midnight sometime. It was just whenever they needed a filler, they'd throw on Art of War. Um, at least that's how it seemed to me.
Hmm.
The truth is that most people don't really know what it is. So they started to get a little bit of buzz right about the time that Chen went to the UFC. He got a little bit of shine, but it was so small, and he deserved way more shine, and the UFC deserved way more of a look by the athletes themselves. But I mean, people that were already training MMA, namely the guys in Xi'an, the guys in Beijing, some of the guys in Shanghai or Hebei, uh, they always had their eye on the big prize, the big goal, but nobody else was thinking about MMA as a sport. And so promoters would like use a couple of they'd use kickboxing like shows to promote a little bit of MMA. In the middle, they'd have a jujitsu match, like like a halftime show. It'd be like a jujitsu match, and then they'd have a couple of MMA fights interspersed in the kickboxing show, like a variety style.
Right. Yeah, because in China, I think there's some issues regarding what's happening in the world in combat sports, especially in professional combat sports. Because I mean, till like a few years ago, like fans in China, they thought Tyson was still fighting. That's the, that was the situation. I think now it's getting much better, but that was a situation lasted for a long time, and because China, because we have all the national heroes, and I think they're very high level athletes. But what's happening in the world, right? We're talking about how do we connect the world using martial arts. MMA could be one of the very few platform we can get people together, right? So we were talking about like how popular. I think it's we see things from two perspectives. One, do people like to watch MMA? Of course, everyone wants to watch MMA, right? We
Right.
see MMA as a show business, but we see Yao Ming in the NBA. Like everybody knows about Yao Ming, and it's much easier to give a kid a basketball to just go to the park, right? To just play with
Yep.
his friends. But the thing is, how popular from the perspective that how many people actually do MMA, and
Well,
do people have like this confusing idea of what MMA is, or in another way will be, do we promote like grappling to kind of like to fill up the hole, say, oh, that's the main difference uh, of MMA and what you see on TV.
okay.
So what do you think on
Okay.
that?
Well, it's a good thing that you mentioned basketball because when I first came to China, people asked me a lot of questions about basketball. You're 6'2", which at that time or in the region I was in the south, I was like a large man, and people thought that hey, how tall are you compared to this player or that player? I was like, those guys are a foot taller than me. Are you serious? You know what I mean? Like I'm 6'1" or 6'2", and that guy is like a 7-footer.
Right,
I come not I'm barely to his shoulder. Like I might be able to nuzzle his armpit. That's how big that guy is. And they're like, wow, it doesn't look that way. I'm like, that's because everybody else is 2 meters plus.
right,
So it doesn't look like that guy's huge, right? You don't appreciate the size of the people. Um, so when they understood how big Shaq or Yao Ming actually is, then it blew their mind how like the scope of the game, how far people had to go. People started to really grasp what size was in the game and the extent of the athletic talent that a player would have to possess. When he's that big, the coordination that it takes to move a 7-foot body, right?
right,
Anyway, all that beside, people, all the kids in the class basically said that their favorite uh, player was Yao Ming, and I was like, okay, I understand. He's an NBA All Star, I think first or second year or whatever, and everybody loves this guy, and he's a national hero. But fast forward a year or two, and all the people that I met, they started having different ideas. Like a year later, kids were, because I taught for about 2.5 years, taught children's English. Can you imagine that, right?
right.
They learned a lot of words. Anyway, the kids had a variety of answers because I was like, okay, well, what's popular? NBA. Well, let's do a little sections on sports, and basketball, football. Who are your favorite players and why? Anytime somebody gives an answer, I don't want to just hear a name. I want to hear why. So people had different answers a year later. Tracy McGrady, Allen Iverson, Vince Carter, you know, some of them reached back into antiquity, people that were already retired. Oh, I love the way that Magic Johnson can pass the ball without looking, or Larry Bird was an excellent shooter, and he's a country boy, like me, I'm from the countryside, blah blah blah. So everybody had something that they connected with, and the answer was that what I took away from it was that it was less important where you were from as to what your story was and how much people knew of it.
Right.
And this is the key, right? Why was the Ultimate Fighter um, a big success in the States? You know, why was that? It wasn't just that final fight, Stephen Bonner versus Forrest Griffin. No, it was that you knew something about the guys. So even if there's a lull in the action, you're taking it from their perspective. You've invested something emotionally because now you know that guy. That's just like you, or that guy reminds you of your cousin, or because you saw him in a conversation, or you saw him in training, you saw him break, you saw him come back, you know his struggles, or maybe his mom's sick, or maybe he's the only kid. Like you have a background story. People were relating to Tracy McGrady. He's how much he loves his mother. As soon as he got money, what did he do? He bought his mother this, or he did this, and he started to repay. And they're like, "Oh, this is the filial son. This is the good son." And look, his mother gave for him, he gives for his mother. People are like the same with Allen Iverson. They're like, "Oh, he's short. I'm short. When I play basketball, all my friends are taller than me, but I got to find a way." Allen Iverson found a way, and he was smaller than the guys he was playing against. I think this is what people need to do more with MMA, and that's what promoters need to do. Is they need to not be afraid of letting the players or the fighters stars shine individually. They need to have more of a platform for that, and you'll see more guys are interesting, and you're
Right.
getting that UFC that like Mike Tyson was interesting, maybe not for all the right reasons back then, but uh, uh, Conor McGregor, right? We're seeing bits of their lives. These guys, right? You start to get these specials. Everybody has channels, and YouTube channels, and whatever. If I was a fighter right now, again, like if I could go back, I would be like, okay, my YouTube channel instantly. I'm fighting, I got a YouTube channel. If I'm training, I'm setting up a camera. If I'm doing anything, I want to have footage of it so I can put it together and share it. Because believe it or not, there's people who think that your life is amazing. Even when you're just at the beginning of the mountain, they're like, "This guy's going up the mountain. I can't believe it."
Right. I just feel that in MMA right now, they're not as much of the stories as you mentioned as it's supposed to be, right? Because we say MMA is a perfect platform to bring everyone together and also to showcase all the different martial art styles, which can expand to different cultures, right? Look at Lyoto Machida. We know about karate, how karate really works, right? And also we see his
Yep,
dad. We saw his home like back in Brazil a long time ago. So the thing is, right now we mentioned so much, but that don't like. Of
yep,
course, they're gonna sell tickets. I mean, in Japan, they do amazing job on that. It doesn't matter smaller shows or shows like Pride or Dream, like Rising. They all like show their
right.
whole like overall story of this guy. But now we see people who sell tickets. It's all shit talking. I think that's very pathetic. And if you want to bring like two martial artists together, what you call it, MMA, mixed martial arts, right? And we say, oh, Bruce Lee's the godfather of MMA, stuff like that. The whole idea is to bring people together and using this platform, right? It's under the heaven, under the sky. We're nothing but a family. But what's the most the tickets sell for? Like that kind of that kind of fights. It's all starting.
Well,
Oh, I don't like you. You
there's
see all the tweets,
anticipation.
right? You see all the tweets.
Yeah,
I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm gonna kick your ass. You're not good. So, Rob,
sure.
can I?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, can I?
You're ugly. Your mother dresses you funny.
Right,
You
right. So,
smell.
so
All this.
what's
I
that?
know.
I mean, we don't want to promote. We don't want to our the kids. We don't want our little cousins or
Yep.
there. And also we want to attract more women. How can they be a good role model for the younger generation? They see go back and read all the tweets, you know, and
Not well.
it.
Here's the thing. Not everybody's the same, right? So if
But
you
right
and
now
I are
it's like ninety
together,
percent. It's ninety
right?
percent.
That's because
Like
they
who
saw the
mentions
big dollars.
styles
They
anymore?
saw the big dollars. They saw the big dollars go to the biggest shit talkers, and they didn't look at the actual fight so much as the crap talking. You know what I mean? So we have what we make a joke over here: the Just Bleed guys, the Just Bleed fans, right?
Right.
You know, those are the guys that are in for the sensationalist side of it, and it's like
Sure.
it's
I
kind of like in the gladiatorial Rome, like the crowd is screaming because they want blood. Do they want a good
of
sword fight
course,
or a good contest between the guy with the spear and the guy with the short sword, the guy with two swords and the guy with the axe, the guy with the net and the trident? There's many different weapon combos, right? And it's the same as in fighting. You got different styles. You got guys that are standing sideways, guys that are more Muay Thai based, guys that are almost strictly wrestlers or grappling based. And the truth is that the more that the fight game gets amalgamated, that people start to learn each other's styles, the more the MMA becomes its own art, because it's really not mixing anymore. Just because you use your hands, your feet, and your knees doesn't mean it's the same. And so I have this discussion sometimes with people who are better at jujitsu than I am, or they are
right,
better at boxing than I am, and I'm like, if it is an MMA match, I will beat you senseless. And they're not convinced. And I'm like, look, I'm not challenging you to a match. I'm giving you an explanation as to why MMA is its own art.
right. Well, and also I was thinking, how can we build more stories around a fight, right? Because around a fight, there's really not much story you can build on, right? So let's say one card got 12 fights. So each
Yeah,
fight is we can promote the fight from multiple angles, like uh, like we saw
that takes a lot of money, Joe. That
right.
takes a lot of money
Well, and
because you
I
got to
know.
edit
I mean,
video, you got to
on
take
social
video.
media. Can
Oh,
we
sure,
just can we just towards that direction? Can we just take like little baby steps towards us? I mean, okay, just imagine this: Romero
right?
fought Adesanya, right?
Yes,
So the fight turned out not very exciting, right? So, and then
not a lot
afterwards,
back.
right? Afterwards, people say, well, actually, Romero actually did a great job. He didn't even use his wrestling, but he still rocked Adesanya a couple times, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
you knock him backwards a couple
right.
times.
So let's think from another way. What they call like reverse engineering. How about
Sure.
in their press conference, we change I don't like you. I don't like you. You're kids. Come on. Let's put on a fight. Instead, in the press conference, in any of the pre-fight promotions, to have the fighters talk in a more technical way, which is, "Hey, Adesanya, I'm a wrestler, but I'm not going to use my wrestling in my entire fight. You will see it. You see what
I
I
don't
mean?"
think I see what you mean. I don't think that this is ever going to happen because
I know,
I don't
but
want you. I don't want you to believe that I won't use my wrestling. It's
I mean,
like okay,
I mean,
Rob's
just
not going
say,
to,
I'm just saying,
he can only punch.
as a professional,
Why would I say that?
for a show, it's like Adesanya, I can beat you even without using my wrestling. And then just
Yeah,
imagine the fight. Adesanya was like out striking Romero. Let's just imagine that way, okay? And Romero was forced to do double leg takedown. And after the fight, more story got built up on. Oh, you
right.
say you're not gonna use wrestling? What's that? So the stories gonna sell more. I'm just saying leads a little bit more technical side instead
I
of
think the
just pure
crowd would
playing.
have
Like,
to understand more about the game and the
right,
nuance.
right,
Nuance is something that doesn't sell right now. You can look in politics, whether regional or worldwide, nuance is lost on the average consumer. So the people that
right.
have to watch this stuff have no idea of the small things that make
You
the difference between a direct hit
right, right,
and near miss. You know what I mean? It's a
right,
tiny thing, but it makes all the difference in the world, and nobody sees the difference.
right.
Nobody
That
cares.
that's what NBA does so amazingly. Like you said, oh, Johnson passed the ball without looking in a direction. Stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Well, they slow mo everything. Everything
Right,
is slow motion. There's a lot of time in between plays because you have TV timeouts or the coach call a timeout, and immediately they're giving you a slow motion. Now in the UFC, they never used to do that. Now they're doing it more, and you're seeing it in UFC and Bellator. One is starting to do it as well. You're starting to see a slow motion, and
right,
the announcers or the commentators are giving a quick play by play of what's really happening. Now, that's still not enough for the technical breakdown. The technical
Right.
breakdown is
Yeah.
when you see guys on
Right.
YouTube that have their own channel, like BJJ Scout or what's another? Dan Hardy. Dan Hardy has a UFC endorsed thing where he has a big screen and he has a special software that he can blow up the spot here. And he says, "Look here, he's reaching under his leg, and now he's able to roll him over." Or here you see he's dodging in here, and you see this amount of space. They talk about space. You can see Luke Thomas sometimes on his show talks about things like that, and he'll draw. Robin Black is maybe the best example actually of that. There's a Canadian guy named Robin Black,
Right.
and uh, he has bits that he puts up 1 minute breakdowns on Instagram, and he'll put up something about showing a finish or a movement in a fight, and he'll explain what's happening. And he has his own little, trademark sounds and noises that he makes. But these guys are the ones that are going to bring the technical aspect to the fight game. Fighters don't want to talk about it. Coaches don't want to explain it. You see what I mean? Because
Right.
you don't want to give anything away prior to the fight. But those are the guys that are going to actually get the education out to the masses.
Right.
And hopefully guys like us too.
Yeah.
Talking mentality of the fighting as well, and the breakdown of the industry behind it and what factors in.
Right. So we're starting out this podcast with is MMA really, or combat sports is really popular like in China, and because we want to continue this topic, which is for the technical side, and also for how to say, for combat sports in general in China. A lot of people might be very curious how it is developed, right? Because in China we have this we're really more focused on the Olympic sports, and also it's mostly Olympic sports, and also we have this a ladder for the fighters to climb up. Because Rob, you also faced back then. You faced the top elite level
Yeah,
of
stand
national
up,
champion level of
world champion.
right, world champion level
Yeah.
of the in system athlete. So could you maybe share your opinion on like what people in the world see MMA fighters in China right now, or fighters in the UFC, what their levels are, and also what's the potential might be if the doors open that the Olympic system athletes they want to change to MMA.
I think that you're going to see a wave of Chinese ex-Olympians, um, an ex-national team moving to MMA, and you're already seeing it now. One of the guys that I was coaching, I coached I think 5 of his 7 matches. I was his cornerman. Um, he was an ex-Chinese national team judo and a national champion in his weight class in judo, and now he's fighting MMA. Now he trains at the UFC, the Performance Institute in Shanghai. Um, you're going to see a lot of this. The Sanda fighters that came up before, they didn't really have a reason to go big because it wasn't embraced by the country. So it was kind of looked down upon by the entire country. So they've got a bunch of people telling them, you don't need to do that. You're a champion in our discipline, in our civilized ring, because it was Sanda in a ring or Sanda on a platform, right? And they're like, you know, you're a kickboxer, you've represented our nation well, you get big money for showing up. You can get a fight against a guy who's going to roll over. He knows he's going to roll over. You know he's going to roll over, or that he's not very experienced, and you're going to get big money and a lot of exposure, and you're a hero. So there's one thing that I've noticed in my time in China, and you can say yes or no, but let me say that they love a homegrown hero. But if that hero fails at anything, they have no time for him at all. Like second place is first loser, and so there's a lot at risk for a guy who has 100 Sanda fights and is a grand champion to go into another art form and get beaten down by somebody who's not a champion. So they have to be very careful in matchmaking and in which matches they accept. And I think this was holding those guys back because there wasn't a big enough goal, and the league, the level, was not known well enough. Now, if somebody goes to the UFC, everybody's like, oh, he's basically in the NBA of fighting. right? Or this is like Premier League soccer. He's in the Premier League. So what? He's not a champion yet. He's a big deal. So now
Right.
you see Li Jingliang fought a top 10 guy. Like, hell, Neil Magny was top 5 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So, like, he fought a high level guy. Yeah, he lost his last time. To me, he's still the best fighter in the country
Right.
because that's how high the level is, especially at welterweight. That's a shark tank. You're going to fight in that? I was so proud. I was so proud. I watched it in slow motion tonight, actually. They had a slow motion of UFC 248. A lot of hits,
Hmm.
and I'm watching all these fighters, and a few of them were from China, and I'm watching all the sensationalism, all the slow motion is all on the hits to the head. Everything's about shutting off the brain box, and it kind of saddened me a little bit, and I also kind of felt a little bit of pain in my chest because I know what it's like, when you see your friend get hit, when you know the guy, you know what I mean? And you see his head rattling in slow motion, his eyes rolling around his head, and his lips are off the side of his face. And when that's in that high definition slow motion, it hurts a little in my chest, to be honest. I saw Joanna and Wei Li hitting each other, and they hit each other at the same time. One hurt. You can see as they progress through the fight, you can see Wei Li's face getting more and more swollen around the eyes and the cheekbones, and the lips, and you can see Joanna's forehead puffing up like a fish, like a puffer fish. And I was just like, man, it's a brutal sport. When you watch it in slow motion, it's not pretty. I'll be honest.
Right.
And
And I really give credit to what Leash has done in the UFC because I also got inspired from him not to judge a fight, which is most of the people they do, and also what not just China. I mean, in the world where MMA need more to develop more on technical side. So it's not never judge a fight because who wins, who loses, right? Because the winning and losing only like for a second. You get knocked out, that's a 1 second thing. You get submitted, you tap, that's a 1 second thing. And you get your name announced, that's just 1 or 2 second thing. So what we're gonna look is how we're gonna try hard to go beyond from our how to say the previous us, right? That's more like how to say it's more a philosophical word to say. And because people I get tired, Rob. I get tired to see people go out to win and on our WeChat or on the moments, they say, "Oh, congratulations!" Like Leach, last time he lost, he just simply said, I'll be back." So what else can he say, right? It's like people they kind of forget about that fight, and without mentioning, he knocked he rocked his opponent, and also how much he improved, and also no one was like talk about what preparation Leach has done for his fight, right?
look, it's a
It's all
huge
like,
step. It's a
I
huge
can be
step.
you, I
He
can
went
be
from the
you, I
number
can get to
15
the top
guy.
15. Like that's
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 right.
very shallow of understanding of this sport.
Exactly, and this is a thing. It's a sport, but it's not a sport. It's not a sport in a term like these games. People look at tennis. Oh, we got a tennis champion, a top 10 tennis. That's a game, my friends. That's not a sport in the way that this is a sport.
Right.
Like there's only a couple things that require the kind of fortitude that MMA fighting does. One of them is motorcycle racing, and I can't think of another one. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is literally the only things like that require this sort of guts to do.
Yeah, because
Uh,
that requires your
it's a big deal.
your body, right? It's gonna wear you down, and that you only have certain amount of fights and in you, right?
It
It's the
it
cost is
it's
your physical
so
body.
yes, your body is from the training. The fight, I never really got hurt too much in fights. Training is what leaves the lasting scars. So I mean, it's kind of like NFL football, but the thing is, in the NFL, you know that you're only on the field for a certain amount of time, and then you're off. You've always got something changing. You've also got other guys. There's multiple factors. It's never just you. Um, MMA fighting is a lonely, lonely sport. There's thousands of people in the arena with you, but that's lonely.
Yep. Well, we were talking about like how good those fighters, because people, uh, we're still gonna go back to our topic of the in-system athletes, how good they are. So, Rob,
Sure.
could you tell everybody, because most of the our friends, they haven't been to China. Even the people you have been to China, but you never rode with those, like, former Olympic team or former, not even
Sure.
like former provincial team athletes. So would you tell our friends like how physically, like, is gonna surprise them or
So, yeah, I mean, like a lot of people are under the impression because the average person, the average man in China is not really large, right? So a lot of people don't think that there's big guys in the country, and let me tell you that not everybody is represented well over here. So the Chinese American population is not the same as China, because there's a lot of different just a lot of different peoples, a lot of different tribes, a lot of different regions to choose from, and they eat differently in various regions, And if you're drinking more milk as a kid and eating potatoes, beef, and milk, if that's your diet growing up, that and hard labor, you're going to be a different kind of kid than a kid that's from central Shanghai having bean curd and a lot of school.
right,
So, uh, and this isn't to put one down or the other down. This is just a fact. So when you get some hard kids from out in the outer provinces, from basically the rim of China, whether it's north or west or southwest or whatever, you're getting different constitution. So I mean, for lack of a better word, there's some guys that we know. We're not going to talk about who, but um, some of them, it's like, okay, either I go fight and I get, like, 5 months salary, or I go do construction, or I go back home and work the farm, or I'm going to be a shepherd, or whatever it is. I go be the local coach for the local sanda team, or at the high school or the college near me. Uh, so they view this as a real opportunity, and they fight a lot harder, despite whatever their whether they have a different build or what have you. There's a lot of powerful guys with a lot of serious power in their fists, especially from the north of China. You see some Inner Mongolians and some Uyghurs. The Kazakh kids are good wrestlers. A lot of guys from Dongbei with some real power. Like there's fighters that maybe came along a little bit too early, I think, in the development of MMA. Much like myself, like we're from the early periods, but those guys were already high level Sanda fighters, and guys like Bao Li Gao and Zhao Zilong. I think that if they were just maybe 10 years younger, they would be known quantities in the UFC. Much like Leach or Zhang Wei Li, or any of the athletes that are now making waves.
yeah. I mean, you're right, and also because a lot of people, they don't know how what physically how strong those fighters are, and I mean, guys like Bao Li Gao, he's just like a man. I couldn't be, because I heard that
He's strong,
yeah,
real real strong.
he was actually not training much, and he got, he's not like a chubby fat, but he's like a he was fighting in 75 kilos, and then he got bigger. He got like 90 something kilos, and he just
Yeah.
like a Fedor
Uh,
type, and
Now he's fat though. Let's
right,
be honest. He's up over 100 kilos.
right,
I don't mind saying that, but yeah, he's okay. He's a good example. I mean, he was the first Chinese guy, I think, that won those Thai versus China matches.
yep,
The Thai boxing versus Sanda matches. He's, I think, the first guy that won in Thailand, because they used to always. The Thais are very nice. They'll spot guys a match or two when they go to their home country. So they have like 5 matches, and they'll give you a couple of matches. The Thais will lose a few matches in your country, but when they go to Bangkok, they kick the shit out of you. So Bao Li Gao is a guy who he actually, I saw this old footage. of him kicking this Thai guy onto a stretcher. Basically, the
Yeah,
guy didn't leave under
that
his own power.
yeah,
That was the middle.
that event
Yeah,
was a Sanda against Muay Thai. So
yeah,
back
exactly.
then, I think that was around 15 or no, like 20 years ago, because the rules not quite the same because
2003 or 2002, something like
right,
that.
yeah, because the rules Sanda needs like punching, kicking, and maybe a one or two knees and throws, right? And Muay Thai, it's like no time limits in clinching. So they came down to this agreement that they're gonna wear elbow pads because now we see it's not is the fight gonna be more exciting, but that was back then. That was almost 20 years ago. So it wasn't easy to
Well,
have
to
that
make it, you got to make it
China
fair.
versus Thailand. That
Got to
wasn't
make it
easy,
fair.
right?
Yeah, you got to make it more fair. So
Yeah.
they were trying to find a hybrid rules kind of system. I've seen some matches where I was like this Thai guy because I've seen the guy fight and I'm like he's not even trying, but that was a real match. The Thai guy was trying. He's in Thailand, and yeah, Baligao was the first guy to knock out a Thai guy in Thailand, and that was impressive.
Before Gaoli Gao's fight, and maybe people can tell me if I'm wrong. I remember it was 5 versus 5, and Baoli Gao was the last one or the first one to compete, represent Sanda, and three of the Chinese fighters who fought previously all lost.
Yeah,
So I think he was the last one because he was like a little bit. They put like weight classes from lighter weight to heavier weight. So
I think it was 80 kilos or
yeah, something
80 something
around that.
kilos,
Yeah,
84 kilos.
I mean, a lot of people they don't know. There's multiple styles of sanda. There's some style looks like I would say when people mention about sanda back to 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, you see Wonder Boy Thompson style
Yeah, there
or
was a
Sage
lot more
Northcutt.
sideways. Yeah,
Right,
the lead hand is low. You get a
right,
lot more catches that way, but you also open up your legs
right,
for a lot of abuse. And so
right,
it's not a good style. That old style of Sanda from like 20 years ago is not a good style to fight a Muay Thai based
right.
kickboxer.
Right.
Yeah,
So for Baoli Gao's team, he's from Coach Zhao. Coach Zhao is a very legendary coach. Was the very first Sanda coach who allowed his team to try MMA. And now, at around like 70 to 80% fighters in all China, they all
yeah.
related to Coach Zhao's original team. So
Well,
Baoli Gao is,
right.
I think Baoli Gao is the second generation of Zhao students. Back then, they were still in Inner Mongolia, and because Coach Zhao, he did boxing, and also he's from Inner Mongolia, of course, cross training Mongolian book wrestling, which Rob competed in. So, so their style was heavy punching
Yep.
plus quick throw. So they don't really kick much back then, so that's where was the perfect style, which is like how to say. Uh, it's easier for them to understand MMA because they're more like a similar style like 15 years ago. But let's
What I
say
always like about Coach Zhao is that he was progressive, though. So a
right,
lot of other Sanda coaches, even very successful Sanda coaches, um, they didn't progress the styles. They don't look ahead. What's coming, right? What's coming? How can we improve what we're doing and give our students one a longer time in the ring, not meaning each fight longer, but like a longer career, and also they weren't looking at what's coming in terms of just within Sanda. So if you look at the most successful Sanda coaches, when you watch the national Sanda games or the World Sanda Championships, those guys don't fight anything like Zhao students.
right,
Zhao students aren't usually represented in that group, but in MMA, a lot of them are Zhao students or are students of his former students,
right.
right?
So for Sanda rules, it's sometimes it's kind of vague because it's a point fighting system. And I will say the takedown part, the throw part, is easier to judge. Like Rob, if you throw me but you maintain standing, you get a point, right? But if you could,
If we both fall, what
yeah,
happens?
yeah, if we both fall, you get a smaller point. You know what I mean? So that's easier
Yep.
to judge. But they also say, "Oh, you kick me. Is that effective kick or is not? If it's effective kick, so you get points. If it's not, you don't get." So I heard there's some because there's some joke. I'm sure the kids use it. Maybe some coaches they're coaching it. Like if I side kick you, Rob,
Yeah.
if I land like a very solid side kick on your chest, so
Okay.
I will get a point, right? So how can I make that kick uh, very effective? So how can I make that kind of like a slapping sound, right? So the trick is when I kick you, I slap my glove to my thigh. So you see what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So it starts being semi. You have to sell it to the judges. It's like a WWE. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, sanda is a good art. It's a very good discipline. But I think because the rules kind of cut in middle, and but the whole concept, I think I'm a big fan of the concept. Is most of the sanda fighters they will ignore the punching range. They will go from the farther away range. They will go catch and go take down and throws. So so that part I think really um, how to say is people can tell there's a big difference between those style and also Jaws team style because Jaws team style they're more focused on punches, right?
Yeah, I've sparred guys whose main discipline is Sancho, and we were sparring more of like a just to open like MMA spar or just stand up like kickboxing K1 style sparring. I had no trouble dealing with the range or the distance. The only thing I have trouble with is these snapping lead kicks. You see that kick that Wei Lee throws so well off her lead foot,
Right,
right? So it's like a lead side kick that kick actually can do something. If she uses the rear foot, she'll never hit me. If she uses the front foot, she'll hit me. You see what I mean? Like because it's the suddenness. It's not that
right.
it damages anything. It's just the suddenness and it puts you on
But
your back.
that kick, but a snapping front, snapping lead kick to your like low kick will
No, it's a
actually give.
side kick,
Oh, okay, side kick. Okay, that's good
right?
because in Sanda,
To the
the
torso,
snapping,
belly.
yeah, the snapping low kick also can bring you points. So which gonna lead to another direction if people just rely on getting that kind of points. You know what I mean? So there's really important to adjust the rules. You know, if we don't adjust the rules right, the like Sanda the sport is gonna go to another complete new direction. You know?
Yeah, well, I think that as a sport, it's a good feeder sport because you have a group of athletes who are already used to have useful techniques. They have useful punching, kicking, and throwing techniques. That is it. That's all, and they're good athletes. Like there's no question. But that's how I see the sport of sanda as far as it concerns MMA. I don't see a lot of crossover in like a lot of like the combos or the strategies or there's no crossover. You have the ability to kick, you have the ability to punch, you have the ability to throw. You already have a good basis in three
Right,
things.
right,
So it's easier to train that guy to do it than it is to train a boxer to do MMA or to train a jujitsu, a straight up like sport jujitsu, high level guy to do MMA. Those things are harder and they'll
right,
take longer than train a sanda guy to do MMA.
right,
But as far as the strategy of sanda transferring to MMA, no, you got to put in new software. You
right.
know what I mean? Yeah, it's I didn't have any real trouble with anything other than that kick. That was the big
Yeah,
trouble that I had sparring with those guys. The guys that I fought, those guys already were seasoned MMA fighters. So those guys they stood differently. They didn't stand like Sanda guys. They their hands were different. And you're not fighting with K1 style big gloves. You're fighting with 4-ounce gloves. So it's a lot different. And they were Zhao students. And they were mostly boxing anyway. They
right,
they didn't kick me. You realize that in all the time that I did fight, nobody tried kicking or taking me down in China. No, that was weird. The only guy that took me down was a Brazilian. Everybody else had to punch, and they hit me right in my big head because it's a huge target.
right. Well, the thing is, in the beginning, they just add jujitsu to sanda, right? There's no, because back then that was a very sounds very simple, right? You know punching kicking, I just give you jujitsu, and turns out everyone back then they're sanda fighters and they learn blue belt level jujitsu, and they just that jujitsu that's all they use, you know. But the thing is, there's a
For a
beauty
lot
there,
of guys, that's all you need, but it doesn't mesh very well. So like there's a it's kind of like shifting gears in a car. You know what I mean?
right?
Eh,
So we say that model, of course. You can
yeah.
if you use that, if you fight, if you fight your opponents who don't know jujitsu, you can win, right? But the thing is, if you get on international, the world stage, what's gonna make you stand out, right? It still is gonna be like Machida's karate. Will be more like a Kang Lee's, that kind of style. The Kang Lee, of course. I mean, like guys like a Kang Lee or Machida, they all know jujitsu, but the stuff make them to win the fight. They're still their fundamental style. So that's what people need to understand. So that's what we need to for the Chinese athletes. Like there's something they need to showcase, and there's
So
something
what you
I
said is
believe is
awesome.
not anything the world has ever seen, because maybe we can get down to that topic in the future. But the thing
Yeah.
is, so Rob, you fought like Bao those the world champion level Sana fighters, and also you mentioned about, okay, in China we all like to see the national hero. Of course, it's not just China, right? Japan as well, Brazil as
Yeah.
well. But the thing is, let's talk about the matchmaking part, the mismatches. So tell us about your first fight.
It used to China used to be more famous for that. Now the public's a little bit more savvy, and there's a greater pool of fighters to choose from. But back then, only the like seasoned, hardened Sanda guys wanted to fight in MMA. So you can't get the idea of being pinned down by some foreigner and getting your face smashed off as a good idea to anybody who's not 100% sure, right? So you get guys who are seasoned. They've got to be so much better at the initial part of the match. So yeah, I got a call. Hey, do you want to fight? And I was like, yeah, of course I want to fight. Well, we got a national champion for you. And I was like, man, on a week and a half notice, he realizes I've never fought before. I just, I do a little bit of jujitsu and a little bit of, boxing in my local health club.
Right.
And the promoter was like, yeah, I know. It's totally understandable if you don't want to take this. I said, you know what? I have a friend who is also training with me, and he might take it because he's got more experience and he's a big guy like Zalong. I was not so heavy back then. I was around 90 kilos, and uh, he said, "Okay, cool." I said, "I'm going to be there in the corner of these guys, though, the guys from Shanghai, Setsuma and Mario." And I gave the fight to Mario. Mario fought Zalong. And I was like, "Well, I'm going to I'll be there, and I'll get to see everything up close and help my friends." The day before we already had tickets, everything. The day before we were supposed to get on the train, I get a call on Tuesday night, and we're supposed to be on the train Wednesday night, and we go on the train. It used to take 12 and a half hours all night, and you arrive at 6:30 in the morning in Beijing, and uh, I get a call Tuesday night, and he's like, you know what, we got to fight for you. And I'm like, crap, if I say no twice, it
Right.
sounds like chicken shit, right? It sounds like I really don't want to fight, and I do. I'm still a month off of really thinking that I could fight somebody, and he's like, I got to warn you though, this guy is nobody else wants to fight him, and I was like, why? I mean, well, he's kind of a big deal. He's kind of the champ. Blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? I'm tired of everybody telling me who's a champ and who's what, and this and that. If I don't say yes, I felt honored because there was no amateur system. There was no amateur MMA. There was no local boxing scene. I just wanted to punch a face without going to jail. And I was like, you know what? Fine. Let's. I'll be there anyway, right? I'm already on the train. Let me fight this guy and see what it is. And I was terrified the whole time. It did. I was fine the night, like 2 nights before, but my guy didn't show up 2 nights before, so I didn't get to see him. And then the first time I saw him was at weigh-in, and he was mad, right? Because we had cut these promos, and I was like, I'm gonna scatter pieces of you all over the country, you know. And I had on a China shirt, a T-shirt that had
Right.
like a map of China on the front. And I was like, you're from up here, but don't worry, I'm gonna little pieces you're gonna see all over the place. You know, I hope you got your insurance paid up. I was cracking jokes all over the place, right? And apparently, nobody else in China ever saw the WWE or made any jokes or saw Ali smack talk people, whatever. And I was just playing around. But this guy, he was like mad as hell at the weigh-in, or he looked it anyway. And so then I started getting mad, and then everybody starts cheering. Everybody's really quiet, right? Because when guys would walk up to you and go like, "Who's your opponent?" and you're like, Bao Li Gao, and they, oh, well, yeah, good luck, you know, good luck to you, sir. And then they walk away and they go, whew, glad I didn't invest time getting to know that cat because, you know, he might not make it. So that fight didn't go too well for me. You were allowed to get kicked on the ground. Even so, yeah, I got soccer kicked. I got knocked down and soccer kicked. I rushed in. That was my fault. You know, I didn't have enough experience or any experience, and I rushed towards him. So I tactically made a mistake, and technically I left my hands down, my face wide open, right? So he clipped me and I fell, and then he swung a kick at me, and then got over top me as I was getting up, hit me a few times. Then I turned around, I clinched, went to knee and elbow, and then the ref was pulling me off, and my corner had panicked so bad that they had thrown the towel. So in the 15 seconds that all of that shit took, the towel was still in the air pretty much, you know, and so the ref stopped everything, and I never really got to tell him thank you for introducing me to the sport, you
Well,
know.
yeah, I mean that
If I had won it, I probably wouldn't have gone back and done it again with anybody.
right.
But
Yeah, because
I was
back then,
pissed off.
Rob, back then I remember, and Bodyguard didn't underestimate you at all because he respects you as opponent, and uh, and also before the fight, I will say, you know, because you were unknown, right, in China in fighting scene, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
they will say, well, you know, he looks quite, you know, he looks tall and big, you know. Because they don't know much about you, and then they get on internet. There's no video about you, so I mean. It's kind of, it's kind of, yeah. I mean, Bodyguard really give you respect, so he didn't really
Oh,
take you as a,
oh no,
you know,
he
you know,
brought our all. That was 100%. I know, but
right.
I'm saying that I was very undeserving of that time in the ring. Do you understand what I mean? Like that should go to somebody that had experience and stripes and like had trained for a long time and has a bunch of matches.
Yeah, so
5 years,
that's what
5 years later,
happened.
or
Yeah,
even 2 years later, I would have fought very well. That would have been a good match. This was not a good match. This was a
I
beating,
mean,
man.
not good match at all because you were, you know, you were not a well trained athlete
No,
in general. So I mean, and then you
no,
told me,
and yeah,
and yeah, I remember you told me. I mean, you didn't really train or even get in shape, stuff like
no.
that. And then back then I was
Okay,
like
said okay.
open weight division. So so I would say about the you know, because Bodyguard back then he just wanted, you know, try MMA and also looking for opponent. You know, that's
Yeah.
yeah. If we blame, there's really you know, people who put this match up. You know, it's not
So okay, but this match, I'll be honest, this match is still not the worst mismatches I've seen in China.
right.
You you see my point? Like I've seen worse, and so this match they didn't know me, but also the people that were making the match didn't know me, and I still wasn't actually finished when the match ended. It
Hmm.
just wasn't going my way. The match still wasn't over. So there's no real conclusion to the match. I'm not out. I'm not choked. I'm not down. And I've got him basically the only place that I stand a chance is clinch or wrestle. And so that's where I had him when
Right.
they stopped the match.
Right.
So you like against the ropes, etc. So you have to look at it from the point of view of that match was not made well, but it could be way worse athletically because I was a decent athlete prior, and I have the basic understanding of how to do some things at that time.
Yeah,
There have been worse. I've seen matches with a fighter that was 18-0 versus a guy in his first MMA match, like his first professional match. Um, uh, I've seen a guy that was basically one of the slowest MMA fighters. We're not going to name him versus one of the fastest guys in the country with the heaviest hands.
right,
Um, knowledgeable guy, but not that fast in terms of reaction and speed, right?
right.
He got hurt really, really bad. Like I've seen guys get hurt. I'm a big goon, big guy, heavy bones, heavy muscle, and like a
Not
big hard head,
mentioning, not
right?
mentioning.
So it's like,
Not mentioning. There's some
what's
fighters.
the worst that could happen with me? What's the worst that could happen with me? But some other guys, it's not the same. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah,
that's a way worse match to make, and guys were getting hurt. Like I've seen some stuff where they're like, okay, we're gonna put this guy over on this guy. I've seen it with two Chinese fighters, and like, well, he accepted the match. I was like, dude, he wants to fight. He really wants to fight, and he's a super promising athlete. But you've got to give him that a hope of winning. You know what I mean? And you can't tell a kid, no, you're not going to fight. He already accepted the match. So
right,
to turn around and say, you know what, we're going to pull him out of this. It wasn't my right. I wasn't his manager. I'm just his
right.
friend, his guga, his big brother. I can't tell him what to do. He's a grown man.
Yeah. So just want everybody to know that it's what we want to show. It's because we love MMA, and we really put very big hope in China MMA and also professional combat sports in general in the past 15 years. So what we were talking about right now, just we want to show our love and also we call it like tough love, just to kind of let people know like what we've been through, right? And how things developed. So Rob was saying his first match was about 15 years ago against the world center champion back then. And
Yeah,
yeah, that
13
was
years.
15
13
years
years.
ago. But this kind of situation was still happening even 5 years ago. So maybe in the next episode, we're going to share more of the like the whole China versus Japan drama, and also and also you see some
Those are
foreigner
those
fighters
are interesting.
they use 5 different names and 7 different nationalities, and and we will take you guys to the rural part of the fighting scene in China for the next
Oh yeah.
episode.
Yeah, when you're in those tier 3 cities, there's some wild storytelling going on, and we had mentioned last episode about them tampering records and stuff, like to present to the public, like these guys have hundreds of matches between them, and they're grizzled veterans, and I'm like, nobody has hundreds of matches except for like Jeremy Horn and Shannon Rich, man. Nobody has 100 wins and like 20 losses and stuff. This is not an MMA number.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, because we want to keep each episode within 1 hour. So we starting out 1 episode a week, and hopefully by next week we can upload 2 episodes, and we want to maintain that pace uh, of 2 or 3 episodes. And if any of you want to know anything, just leave us a message, and also we will upload the pictures. We will actually
Yep.
create some folders of by episodes. Like episode 1, the pictures you will see that in a folder on our social media.
Yeah, we got to leak out some photos nice and slow. And also, we've got some interesting guests coming up after we cover the first few episodes and get our technical abilities up. We're going to be profiling some gyms, having some coaches in, possibly some promoters and some refs as well. And some of them will be famous, some of them less famous, but all of them have had some impact or some role to play in Chinese and in Asian MMA. So we got contacts all over Asia, Joe.
Yep.
And we know people from everywhere, from Russia to the Philippines to Australia. So we've got a lot of experiences and a lot of unique views towards the sport that might not be evident from North American perspective.
Right, because China is so close to Russia, and we are lucky to know our friends from Dagestan 12 years
Yeah.
ago, and we got to, no, 15 years ago, we got to have the first glimpse of the Dagestanis and their potential. So we're going to talk about in the future episodes.
All right.
All right. All right.
Signing off. You
Okay.
got to get a gong, Joe. You got to get a gong when you end this. We're closing the fight temple door. You got to ring a big gong.
Okay. All right. I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Ciao.